First, I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Mo. I'm the moderator for this session. This is Checkout.com's Build Beyond episode 5. Really exciting panel today. Some key people across payments, e-commerce, and really what we want to talk about is how quickly e-commerce and payments is growing across Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan. There's just a tremendous amount of growth that's happening. We really see that across the MENA region in general. There's just so much growth happening, and yet their region is so different when you take it on a market by market basis. So we're really privileged and honored to have three fantastic speakers with us here today. What I'll do is I'll go across the room, the virtual room, and I'm gonna have each of them kind of quickly just say who they are, the company they're working for, and maybe just what is sort of their 30-second view on where they feel e-commerce and payments is going. So Muzammil, let's kick it off with you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mo, and thank you, Checkout, for having me here. My name is Muzammil Hussain. I am the EVP of Consumer Travel at Sierra Group. We are the largest travel and tourism company in the Middle East. I lead our two brands, Al Musafir in KSA in Kuwait and Tajawal in UAE. Obviously, this year was a difficult year for travel, but we continue, and we saw this before COVID started, accelerating growth of digitization of payments, the use of new technologies and payments to improve the customer experience. And we're really excited about the shift change in the mindset of the consumer about e-commerce and travel as travel comes back. So we believe that digitization and continuing improvement of facilitating e-commerce payments will continue to grow, especially in Saudi Arabia, and that's well on its way.
Thanks, Muzammil. Iman, over to you.
Thank you, Mo. So hi, everyone. I'm Iman Adel. I am the head of acceptance for the Middle East and North Africa region. That includes also Pakistan at MasterCard. And I personally believe that after the year that we've been through, all players in the ecosystem have been working to take this digitization to the next level. But the silver lining of the tough year that we've been through is that it really leapfrogged all of the players 5 years ahead and really accelerated the adoption of digitization. But it also put a lot of pressure and challenges on all the players and technology providers to really cope and move as fast as the consumer expectation. So I'm really looking forward to discuss with all of you how we see this developing and how we see all of ourselves moving into a digital e-economy as we move forward.
Thank you, Man. Arjun, last but not least.
Thank you. Thanks, Mo. Thanks, the Checkout team. I think. Let me first start with sort of congratulating you guys on your report. I think unlocking the world of opportunities, and I think MENA and Pakistan. I think that's what the title. I had the opportunity to contribute towards it, but I think it made some very good reading, and that's not just me talking. I actually shared that with a number of folks who are not necessarily from the payments world.
Thank you.
So that was great. Quick introduction on myself. I recently joined a consulting firm called Arthur D. Little. I head up their MENA region for financial services, but that's only 2 weeks ago. Last 5 years, I've worked for one of the largest retail conglomerate, which operated across about 30 countries, over 200 brands, everything from automotive to education. So that's sort of background on me. And I think I'll echo Iman's point in the sense, COVID-19 has transformed, I think, consumer lives. I think there's a saying that we moved some decades in days in terms of adoption of digital. And I have some sort of 3 or 4 stats to kind of sort of bring it to life rather than sort of share my views, let the stats talk. On online delivery, we moved 10 years in circa 8 weeks. On remote learning, we had 250 million students move to e-education in 2 weeks. We had telemedicine, which grew 10x in 15 days. And I think that sort of sums up the shift that we are seeing. Now, I think a lot of that will come back on. I think, I'm not saying the world will completely radically change, but I think the new normal is going to be quite different. Um, some of the ideas and concepts of the past will definitely live on, which are robust enough. But I think we're going to continue seeing change. And I don't like saying that, but we're still not out of COVID, right? And I think 2021 is going to be a fairly tricky year, except I think we're more robust in our psychology now about it.
Yeah, thank you. And just to maybe add some more stats to the ones you just shared. So checkout.com recently released a report called Seizing Opportunity in MENA and Pakistan. And there we found that 78% of consumers are actually shopping online, and almost half of them expect to shop more. So we really believe as Checkout that the true North Star is kind of increasing online payments, increasing online transactions. And so maybe if we just dive into that a little bit further, if I were to ask actually all three of you, if you were to give any advice to any merchant who's looking to scale online in this region, what are some of the things that you would tell them from a culture perspective, from a law perspective, ecosystem perspective, some of the platforms, maybe some of the various payment methods? What's kind of the top one or two pieces of advice that you would give them? Arjun, let's maybe kick it off with you as we go around the table.
Sure, so happy to. So I think you echoed the sentiment when you started that I think this region, a lot of people sort of make a mistake of sort of lumping it into one, right? I think there is enough diversity in a number of ways, and I think understanding where these several companies are on that maturity curve, whatever characteristic you might take, is something which needs to be factored. The other thing is, I think you cannot be ignorant of the overall operating model, because e-commerce is not just about a glitzy website and the ability to make a payment on it. I think I have a tongue-in-cheek statement that your back end is your front end, and I think we saw that during COVID, that a lot of companies which could not sustain their supply chain, their logistics, their delivery actually suffered. It didn't make a difference whether they had the best product at the cheapest price. I think it's essentially understand your consumers. I don't think rushing into it is the answer, because e-commerce penetration is still small, right? So as you said, there is tremendous room for growth. So do it well, in a lot of ways, I think choose your partners very carefully. And I think choosing your payment partners are a very essential part of that decision, right? And obviously for e-commerce, whether it's the payment gateways, your PSPs, and your fintech relationships. So don't rush into it, is I guess my single. Yeah.
Great. Muzammil, so as somebody who actually operates a business across multiple markets, do you mind sharing your views?
Yeah, look, I think for us, it's I echo Arjun's comments, but I think really what we find is a differentiator in being a strong e-commerce player online in our markets is being local. So each of the countries, especially Saudi and Kuwait, not so much UAE, but Saudi and Kuwait have local payment schemes. MENA in Saudi and KNET in Kuwait, and the adoption of that has significantly increased our ability to target the right customers and penetrate. So the MENA penetration in Saudi is almost, let's say, 1-to-1. Every account holder has a MENA card, but not everyone has a credit card. When Saudi payments allowed MENA to be used as e-commerce, it significantly increased the availability of customers to purchase online rather than doing a COD or a booking online, but pay via cash or bank transfer. As we adopted that, we saw significant growth. Same for Kuwait and KNET. So local has been key for us. And the second thing has been, as things like Apple Pay, etc., have come out, we've seen a significant growth in use of them to facilitate ease of transactions online. So it's local and smooth processing. That's what we focus on.
Local payments is something that we at Checkout definitely support, and we've seen a rise in the number of consumers who are actually using them. And at the same time, it's always good to have, I think, a global payments partner. Iman, from a MasterCard perspective, what are some of the things that you see more from a payments lens that merchants expanding should really take into account?
So I echo what Muzammil and Arjun said, and really the two very important elements for any merchant that wants to expand is choosing the right partner and also understanding the dynamics of the market they're expanding into. So just moving from brick and mortar to online involves a lot more logistics than just accepting the card. And the way we have been approaching it with checkout and with other partners, and overall when looking at each one of the markets that we're bridging that gap between the brick and mortar and the online presence, is how can we create a unified commerce type of experience for the consumer and enable the merchant to be present with their consumer wherever they are. So the challenge that merchants really need to think about is, on top of having the right platforms and technologies, is also how to create the right consumer experience that will create that stickiness and have the consumer come back to their platform and create a relationship beyond just the purchase time. So as consumers are becoming a lot more knowledgeable with the internet and having smartphone devices and getting used to very swift and very fast type of instant gratification, the same needs to be reflected in terms of getting access to goods or shopping or just having a very smooth type of experience when shopping. So on top of finding that right partner and understanding the regulatory and the market environment of the consumers that they are targeting, it's really cracking a very nice and smooth online journey to ensure that those consumers will keep on coming back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good point. So maybe just Iman, just sticking with you and just kind of double clicking on the customer experience. One of the things that we see is that historically there was a number of brands who would operate out of Europe or the US on a cross border basis, and because of that, the decline rate was actually extremely high. And we've seen a shift whereby brands that process with checkout in different parts of the world are now looking to actually set up shop here. However, the actual acceptance rate, approval rates are basically still lower than some of the more Western markets that we're working in. Do you have a view on that? Do you have any recommendations for like merchants, how they can further optimize and sort of squeeze value out of every single payment?
Absolutely. So one of the key things that are really, really important and are key to really succeeding in today's world is not only being able to accept a card, but being able to do that in a secure and fast and seamless manner. So in order to do that, we've been working very closely with you guys and with other players in the ecosystem in order to introduce services like tokenization or MDES for merchants. We're working on services such as Click to Pay to really make sure that the checkout experience is as fast as a click of a button, because the more pages that the consumer is taken through when making a purchase, the higher the likelihood of either cart abandonment or decline rates for a reason or another. Even with 3DS 2.0, and the introduction of biometric authentication methods that we've been working on, that checkout experience of even having to input an SMS code that we receive for the OTP for a 3DS transaction, that friction will be reduced with biometric authentication and with the introduction of 3DS 2.0. So in a nutshell, it's not only looking at the acceptance piece, but seeing what are the value added services that really can smooth out the checkout experience to ensure that acceptance rates are higher, and having a robust payment gateway and partners that enable you to do that. And that localization, as you mentioned, is really key to service each one of the unique markets that we have in MENA.
Muzammil, so just building on that, can you maybe talk to us a little bit about how Sierra Group is managing to offer the customer a frictionless payment experience, but still managing risk and fraud?
Yeah, so we've invested a lot in our let's say machine learning and AI capabilities around fraud and risk. As you guys know, may know, in travel, there's a significant portion of and chargebacks, etc. So we want to still maintain, we want to make sure that we balance friction of the customer with fraud risk and ensure that the right customers are getting the right friction. So if you are a high risk customer, we want to target you and have a separate flow for you or a separate check for you, dynamic 3D secure, things like that. But most importantly, it's about continuing to learn about the customer and profile their fingerprints and their IPs to understand which ones are fraud. That's been very, very important for us. At the same time, we're continue to improve our tokenization and capabilities around that. So those have been our main focus, to use the machine learning and artificial intelligence to properly profile potential fraud.
Great, thank you. So one of the things that I've kind of heard consistently throughout from all three of you is the importance to choose the right partner. Arjun, obviously, maybe in your current role, but also in the previous roles that you have, how do you go about selecting a payments partner and ensuring that it's a partner that you can trust and really deliver you value? You're on mute.
Mo, that's a good and a hard question to answer. Okay, so let me try and sort of answer this. I think that it's partly science, partly art, right? I think let me pick a couple of things out. So I think Muzammil mentioned something around localization and sort of understanding that local market. So I think there is an element of understanding what is your specific need in the client, in the market you're in. And I think I made a point in your report, when we operated across the various markets, I would not obsess over wanting necessarily to have the biggest global partner, because some of them just did not resonate, right? So I think the science of this is to see what is actually happening in the market, to seeing where the customer is actually shifting, looking at what your competitors are doing, and I think checking into the reputation of the various players, right? And then other things play in, right? Obviously, how well it integrates into your technology. For us, one of the key driver was that in my previous organization was that we had global brands, so we did have inputs coming from their global brands to saying we prefer working with Checkout, or we prefer working with X, Y, and Z, right? So there was that element of it. The art side, and I think that's also as important, is can you work with the team and the organization? Because I think payments specifically, if I said picked as a topic, I think if I go back 7, 8, 9 years ago when I sort of started my life in payments, it was like an afterthought. It's something you kind of did at the end. And if you got the cheapest proposition, you kind of sort of took it. Could be very different for the other, for Muzammil's business, but I'm talking about generally sort of, in-store retail. It was, you went to an acquirer, you got the cheapest rate, and whatever payment gateway they gave you, you went with it because e-commerce was like 1% of your transaction. I think that's kind of changed. You need to have a relationship that you can work with. And I think that's kind of trial and error. And I think that's kind of where the art comes. I don't think I've done justice to that response, that question, but I think I wish I could give you a drop-down list of 10 things to tick, but hopefully I've given you 5 or 6. Yeah.
That was great. That was good. We weren't expecting that. Just for the folks attending the call, we will have questions towards the end in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please do post them in the chat and we'll be happy to address them. So I think moving on, the three of you talked about coronavirus and COVID-19 at the start. And I think it's something, obviously being in payments, that we have to talk about. There's obviously been tons of stats and data that's shown a huge shift from cash transactions, from in-store transactions to digital payments, contactless delivery. Iman, if I can start with you. Are you able to share any of MasterCard's insights and views on the accelerated shift to digital payments?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've done actually quite a few surveys to truly understand the impact from a market perspective beyond just the numbers that we see in our reports. And the shift has been more surprising that we could have ever expected. So there is a huge increase in online shopping behavior and secure shopping experiences generally. But to share with you some stats from the region, not global numbers, from MENA. So we ran a survey that understands the consumer behavior towards e-com. So for example, 73% of the people that were interviewed say that they're spending more money online since the onset of COVID-19, many of which were first-time users of e-com, which is a tremendous step in digitization. 50% of the people are now shopping for essentials like food and toiletries and groceries, which we used to go physically and shop for those. And I, for one, have only been shopping online for all of these. We have also 63% surge in people spending money on virtual experiences. So it's not only about shopping, but also about e-learning, about joining some type of forums or online workout communities or e-gaming. So we're seeing a really big shift in terms of how people are looking for experiences and spending in that. Also, when it comes to charities, we have 36% of the population today in MENA that is contributing to their charities on a monthly basis online and no longer done on cash, at least for that chunk of the population. And one very non-payment related type of stat that we found very interesting on a human level is that 76% of the people that we interviewed use this downtime or home time that we were all inflicted to use as a positive learning experience and grow out of it. And also to share a little bit about what are the type of products that were very, very much popular in this period. So we saw an incredible surge in the data top-up. So everyone has been overly connected to the internet a lot more than before. So 70% surge in that across all of MENA. Clothing, surprisingly, even though people don't leave their house, but they still shop for clothes, with a surge of 63% compared to the beginning of the year. Groceries went up by 52%, computer and equipment 51% naturally to set up all the home office environments. Beauty, health products, gifts, books, and cooking utensils have also been on top of the list. I still have a lot more data, but keep me honest with time. I know we have a limited amount of it.
Arjun and I are actually fiercely taking notes at the same time, since we both kind of love our data. Those are really interesting stats. Actually, charity was one thing that I actually did not know about. That's very interesting. Typically in Dubai or in the UAE, shopping malls have these buckets of cash where people just drop cash in. So it's really cool to see that also changing as well.
Absolutely.
So the one sector you did not mention is travel, obviously. Muzammil, maybe just some of your views on sort of how you're looking at COVID and COVID-19, especially now that the vaccine is hopefully coming around the corner soon, and what are some of your plans?
Yeah, look, I mean, when COVID hit, our biggest challenge for our customers, and maybe you guys have seen all this, is the refunds and chargebacks. So airlines were taking a significant amount of time to refund us, for us to then refund that onto our customer. That created a significant issue with chargebacks. And even if the refund, we always know, especially for cards, even if the refund was processed on our side, it could take a number of days, if it's not a local payment scheme like MENA or KNET, to actually get back to the customer. So what we've really been trying to focus on is streamlining and increasing the transparency of the refund process, not only the card part, but actually the entire refund journey for travel for our consumers. That's been a really, really key focus. The second area of focus is we've rolled out, as part of our Sierra Group and consumer travel, we are an omni-channel brand. So we have a number of retail locations across Saudi. In those, we've seen a significant uptake in the use of touchless payments, whether that's NFC cards, Apple Pay in store. The cash continues to reduce. And as now travel comes back, it's really back to what we talked about earlier. It's about facilitating ease of transaction of digital payments online. But we're seeing interest now in things like, instant financing, micro lending on the fly, especially for travel, which are higher ticket values than some of the more commodity-based or consumer goods. we really see an interest for things of the buy now, pay later space or micro lending on cards. That's something that we're really excited about and working with the entire ecosystem on.
Super interesting. It's really great to see that despite this temporary slowdown that you guys are continuing to work on all these cool things. Arjun, so speaking about really cool things and buy now, pay later, since I know it's one of your favorite topics or the topic that you like to blog about. What are some of the changes that you're seeing either from a buy now, pay later standpoint or just in general innovation that we're seeing as a result of COVID-19?
Okay, so thanks. I'm just going to take a step back and then sort of kind of try and answer your question. So I think I'll start with what Iman was saying, and I think Iman, you're so correct. I think from what your survey, we and in my previous role, we saw new models, new customers, and new categories going online, and I think that itself should be terribly exciting for anyone who's playing in the e-commerce space. The other point I want to make is more, we are just at the start of all this stuff, right? I think it's been an exhausting year from a lot of ways because, a lot has changed, but I think we're at the start. And I think there are 4 or 5 things which are kind of sort of, you can wrap into the whole innovation thing, which I think will drive the change. I think I call it the calm before the storm on retail tech, okay? I think retailers of all sorts, whether it is on their online side of the business, omni-channel side of the business, and I'll come to omni-channel in a sense, and sort of pure physical retail, I think, have had to sort of hold back on taking large scale investments because I think, survival and pivoting has been where the focus is. And I think there's going to be tremendous amount of retail tech investment in the foreseeable future and in our region too, right? As we introduce new concepts and models. The second thing is I think we're going to see data and regulation possibly come together in what open banking, open finance, or sort of embedded finance, and I think Muzamil just mentioned about microfinance and stuff like that. And I think that's going to fuel a whole generation of shift in the way things are going to move. The third mega trend, and I use the word mega trend, is contactless. Okay, for me, contactless is not the tap and go of your credit card, your debit card on your POS machine. I think it is establishing an entirely different way of trading, right? So whether it is scan and go or possibly the true adoption of wallets, retailers taking a leap of faith and getting into it, right? And the final bit, and I think it doesn't get talked about enough, but I think what COVID has actually done is truly delivered omni-channel for the first time, right? And we've been hearing, I have been hearing omni-channel for 10 years. First 5 years, I didn't even understand what it was, right? Next 5 years, theoretically, I kind of understood it. We truly saw omni-channel live out. And actually, there's some very interesting statistics on how much omni-channel has grown, where people are going online, they're basically ordering, possibly making their payment also online, but then picking up their products or getting their product delivered in that manner. So I think start of a shift. There are 4 or 5 mega trends, and I think we're going to be in a very different world in, I think, the next 2 to 3 years.
100%. I think that contactless was probably one of sort of the most used words from a fintech and payments point of view. Contactless payment, contactless delivery, almost everything became contactless. So given the fact that we kind of see all these trends, what are some of your views in terms of whether this behavior is going to remain sticky? Do we have any data points? What is it that you folks see from sort of a payments perspective? Do you sort of see this trend of remaining online? Do you see all of it moving back to face-to-face, in-store, to cash? What is it that you think will happen? Arjun, let's maybe just stick with you and then we'll go.
Yeah, so okay, so I think I can talk. So what happened was, COVID hit, lockdown happened, everything moved online, then obviously there was a certain easing in Dubai, and obviously there was cabin fever kicking in, people were stepping out. So, we saw a very healthy return to sort of in-store commerce, right? So I'm not saying that it is. Having said that, both e-commerce as a percentage of business pre-COVID and currently is substantially higher and growing at a faster rate. Okay, and I think that and it's not just consumer behavior. I think retailers will innovate in the concept of e-commerce. Right? You look at China, for example, and I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong in my previous job. Live streaming. We don't do any of that stuff here, right? So there are a number of e-commerce models which I think will evolve, right? So there's going to be evolution and innovation in e-commerce. So I think e-commerce is going to continue growing, right? I don't think swiping cards is coming back anytime soon, unless Iman tells me otherwise. I think we're going to, I think we're going to go down that sort of contactless journey. I'm actually very, very bullish on biometrics. Could be wrong. And I'm very bullish on facial biometrics because I think there's tremendous play on that. And I think we're also going to start saying digital currencies coming to it. Now, whether they are government-backed stable coins, I'm hearing that Libra is apparently going to get launched in the US in January. So I think this is a journey we're now coming back from. We're not going to grow at 50% a day, which we did in the last few weeks, right?
Great. Iman, I'm sure you have some nice data points to kind of back up some of those projections that Arjun has just made around contactless and maybe not the same rate of growth, but definitely continued growth.
No, absolutely. And actually on contactless, since the beginning of the year, we saw that 64% of the people in MENA alone have been moving away from cash and choosing contactless ways of payment, it being either with card, so in a face-to-face environment, or even contactless checkout type of experiences where there is contactless delivery, etc. And on top of the consumer need or consumer behavior changing towards contactless, we've seen tremendous demand from the side of the merchants and the retailers. And just to give you an example on that, I have a couple data points here in front of me. Just recently, like we did a really subsequent partnership with Delivery Hero. And we know that in light of COVID, delivery or food delivery has been kind of the star of the show. So what we've done with the Delivery Hero program is that we assisted all of their sub-brands, being Talabat, Hunger Station, Zomato in the UAE, for example, but this is across the entire region, to have an option for pay on delivery contactless solutions. So far there was the card on file, but the key strength of any merchant to want to play out there is to give options to their consumers to pay in the way that makes them the most comfortable. Some people are very much comfortable to register their card online and start paying from a wallet type of experience. Others still want to have the card interaction with a person and see in a terminal. And actually on this, we are able to create an entire ecosystem for that player that is not only enabling those payments to happen and reduce cash in circulation, but is opening up the door thanks to that platform and technology to enable the merchant itself to pay out its delivery people, to create an entire supply chain and ecosystem within their own business of payments happening digitally. So the way that we have been working on this is that we look at what are the needs of each type of merchants and start building technology stacks that serve their business needs beyond payments, and payments just comes in as the catalyst that brings everything together.
Go ahead. Thank you.
So that's one example. But the other thing that I think is really important to add, and we've had chats on this, Mo, is that the true strength of contactless is that now it is opening up new frontiers for low-cost acceptance with technologies such as tap on phone. And this is going to enable us to really tap onto the bottom of the pyramid and the smaller type of merchants that either from a business model perspective, like in the delivery, it doesn't make sense financially to have classic terminals to accept payments, or in the SME space and very small merchants in countries like Pakistan or Egypt or even Iraq, to bring them on as new to card or new to digital acceptance type of solutions, where a smartphone would be accepting cards, could be accepting QR, and just embeds a lot of contactless type of payment options for consumers to start using.
All right, thank you, man. Muzammil, obviously, you guys are one of the largest, if not the largest, travel platform here in the region, and you have a lot of customers who are probably waiting to, travel. What is it that you guys foresee coming as we sort of near the end of this COVID pandemic in the next 3, 6, 9 months?
Yeah, look, if you speak about travel in general, I think one thing that's been very reassuring for us, not related to payment, but just travel, is there is still a significant, let's say, passion and interest for travel. Anytime there's like some kind of good news about something, we immediately see a spike, not in booking, but at least in searches. People start looking in, where can I go? They're now asking more questions around restrictions and where can they go? When's the COVID test required? So as things get more comfortable and hopefully the vaccine continues to roll out and border restrictions ease up, we really expect a kind of a lift off. Things are stable now, significantly better than where they were 4 or 5 months ago, especially in Saudi with the domestic market and in UAE. So the passion for travel remains, and we're excited about that. In terms of payments, and back to the comments about retail and omnichannel, I think we'll continue to see a blending of physical and digital experiences, both from overall customer journey and from a payments perspective. I continue to see that. We believe that will happen in travel, but also in other places. So we're excited. And then for many of you that know, that Saudi Arabia is opening up, to international tourists, and they're investing heavily in that. And we believe that as a lot of countries, as things open up, countries like China or Russia that have a much more advanced kind of digital payment ecosystem, especially China, come into Saudi, we believe that will create adoption in Saudi Arabia to as you see in Dubai, Alipay used to be everywhere because of the Chinese tourists. And we continue to believe that will also happen in places like Saudi Arabia.
Super interesting. Thanks, Muzammil. All right, I'd like to move on to the Q&A. There's a number of questions, and I'd like to invite the audience as well. If you have any questions, please do type it into the chat window at the bottom. So let me find a good one. Okay, I really like this one. Can you develop more on the importance of consumer trust in payments? So Iman, you had talked a lot about how there was a lot of first-time online buyers during the COVID pandemic. And then Arjun had talked about these brand new platforms and these brand new models. And obviously trust in terms of building the brand, trust in having a secure payment experience is super important to that. Iman, let's maybe ask you first, what are some of the ways to really build consumer trust in payments, and how important do you think that this is for a merchant or a brand to actually consider?
Well, even if we go back to basics, like even when it comes to cash and the intrinsic value that a piece of paper has, it's all built on trust. So if we are not heavily investing all together as ecosystem players, and as well from the merchant side and the issuer side and acquirer side, to ensure that the trust is built online for the consumers, no matter how much money is invested, the shift of culture would never happen. So one of the key things that we have been working on, especially on the e-commerce side, is to work on both sides of the business, both from the issuing and the acquiring side, to strengthen our partners with fraud solutions that enable, that are powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning, to understand not only what are the type of fraud attacks that happen, but have the intelligence to understand the behavior both from a consumer perspective, a merchant perspective, but also from a bank and environment perspective, and really start building up the intelligence to kick in the right advice of fraud management as it happens. On the other side, we are heavily investing in growing and developing the infrastructure as a scheme, and also with partners like you guys, to implement fraud solutions that keep on evolving as we go, and ensure that that is communicated in a very simple and clear way to the consumers, so that they know that should there be any issue whatsoever, all of their rights are protected from a chargeback perspective, that they should know that all of their credentials, like using tokenization, for example, they don't need to expose all of the PAN numbers of their card. So they can safely get past that fear of getting or putting their card on the internet for anyone to take. So I think on top of investing in the right technology and the right fraud solutions to ensure that the system and itself is very secure, it's very important to communicate it the right way to the consumers to build that trust. And this can be done in many ways. There can be educational campaigns, there can be usage campaigns that really emphasize that message, but one cannot really go without the other.
Agreed. Muzammil, just asking you the same question, having successfully built this online travel platform that has migrated customers from offline to online, what are some of the things that you guys have done to basically really build trust in the consumer?
Yeah, so I think for us, trust has been primarily driven by three ways. The first is actually being extremely locally and extremely relevant to our consumers. So we spend a lot of time investing our marketing and our brand building around locally relevant marketing. So we're very significant within the marketplace, within the government, within influencers, with social media. We significantly grew our presence and accessibility. So we're not just a phone call away. We have today on a daily basis over 7,000 to 10,000 WhatsApp chats with our team. We're always easy to accessible and providing high touch points customer service. And lastly, as we grew our retail footprint to be an extension of our online brand. So we moved to an omni-channel strategy. And now across Saudi Arabia, you can reach us pretty much in every major city and even small city. So, not only can you see us online, you can visit us and you can talk to one of our advisors in the store, on the phone, on WhatsApp. So being always relevant and most importantly, understanding the community and the culture of our customers is very important.
Got it. Arjun, so putting on your consulting hat for a second, you've got two very established brands here, MasterCard, Sira. If there's a new fintech, a new player, maybe entering the market, or if there's a startup, a fintech startup, or any kind of digital platform, what's some of the advice that you have to them to actually build in trust around payments and commerce?
I think the first thing is just work with the right partners, right? So I think you've got the likes of obviously you've got Visa and MasterCard, both very credible organizations. Obviously on the payment gateway side, there are players like yourself, which are global. So I think part of legitimizing your business model is about who are you working with an association, right? So you're only, there's a statement that you're known for the friends you keep, right? So I think that's kind of as valid there as it is in the business world. So I think that's definitely one. I think secondly is I think there are no workarounds, right? I think any fintech which is choosing to enter this market needs to ensure that they are on solid footing. And that has been a concern for at least someone like me who's been active with the startup world. And I think it's changing now quite rapidly. That if you go back 4 to 5 years ago, I think the amount of thought which was put in terms of building products was limited. People were accelerating their way into the market because they thought an idea was good enough. I think that's changing, right? And I think if you work with the right kind of partners, then they demand you to be good enough, right? So I think that's kind of one advice. It's always very, very good to work with an anchor client. So Sira could be one example. In my previous role, we were very, very open to working with fintechs. As a matter of fact, we helped, I guess, legitimize quite a few of them in the market. So finding an anchor retail partner is never a bad idea either, right? That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, great. So I think we have time for one more question. I really like this one, and I'll just throw it out there, and whoever wants to answer it can take it. It's what's the opportunity for fintechs to win in the payment space in MENA, obviously? Anybody want to take that?
Okay, well, the answer is tremendous, right? I think the payment space. So it's very interesting, and I would there was a very recent study done by the Cambridge Institute of Alternative Finance, and again, I was fortunate enough to be sort of part of it as a contributor. I think they looked at it globally, but I would advise anybody on the call and including the four of you to go have a look at it. Payment and digital lending is where we are seeing most of the disruption or most of the fintech plays. So I think it's early days in terms of payment disruption in this part of the world, right? So I think the opportunity is there. You got to choose your bets, not follow the herd. Right now, I think, the term BNPL is getting everybody too excited. So, every day I hear there's a new BNPL player popping up. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think, don't just follow the herd because, your best friend has done it. So no, opportunities are plenty. It's just the start. I keep saying it's the beginning of all of this right now for us.
Good.
Back to you. No.
Is Iman still here? Or did we lose her?
I think she disconnected.
I think we lost her. Okay. Anyways, I think we're at time. So I'm sorry to those people whose questions we could not answer. Maybe what I'll do is I'll send the individual questions out, and if we can get the answers, then I'm happy to share them with the respondents directly. We'll see if we can maybe coordinate that. I think in the end, it was a super entertaining session. I definitely learned a lot. It sounds like some of the key messages are that e-commerce and online payments are going to continue to grow. This is just the beginning. There's a lot of new business models. There's a lot of different ways to serve the customer in a very customer-centric way, and there's a lot more change that's going to be coming. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join. Arjun, Muzammil, Iman, who just came back for the closing thank you speech. Thank you, Iman, so much for your time today. I'd like to welcome everyone to download the checkout report available on checkout.com, and I'll speak to you soon. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.